Alright, I am back, the new Destiny 2 video. I am recording this minutes after the Vidoc aired. This is not pre-recorded, this is literally recording right after the Vidoc aired. So this is kind of my live impressions based on stuff I saw a week ago. So there was a Bungie preview event. I don't know how many people were there, it seems like a good amount. It was kind of Bungie Faces hosting with different members of different teams there. And the way this was broken down is there were three main parts. There was, we just watched the Vidoc, so we saw the 16-minute Vidoc early. Then there was a demo play session where a tester played the first campaign mission, I think all of it, maybe most of it, a little bit of cutscenes in there, and then they messed around in Patrol a little bit, and then finally there was a Q&A session at the end. I just wrote a big article kind of with my overall thoughts that went up at Embargo, but I thought I would kind of expand on that here, live react to the Vidoc now that it's aired. You may notice at least some level of a lack of enthusiasm based on my initial review there, but I want to say that I am very excited for Lightfall. I do think Lightfall is going to be good. I think Strand is going to be fun. I just think we've gotten ourselves in a little bit of a strange situation with Lightfall. As you may notice from the Vidoc, there was not a whole lot of new information in there. It was mostly expanding on stuff that we've already heard about. And I think Vidocs are great. I think it's great to hear from all the team members. However, Vidocs have been used to kind of break big news before. And that is not really what happened here. I would say the biggest reveals from the Vidoc are, there's that one shot of that cool looking exotic stasis bow that we have not seen previewed yet. He revealed that characters like Crow and Amanda and Petra and even Devrim K is returning for Season of Defiance. And then there's new footage of kind of the conflict on Neomuna. But most of it is stuff we've kind of talked about before, like an exploration of Neomuna, talking about Strand, talking about new features like loadouts and Guardian combinations and Guardian ranks and things like that. And it ended with no big reveals about what's coming. It's like the final shape's the finale, but we still don't have any information on what's coming. Whereas previously, Bungie was like, here's the next 3 expansions, which we did not have this time. In terms of the hands-on demo, or hands-off demo, I guess, it was kind of weird. I'm not going to lie. I just don't think the demo was set up as well as it could have been. So it starts off with a tester who's playing at the intro, so you don't have access to Strand. It wasn't someone, with a full Strand build or anything. I don't remember. They were a hunter, but they rolled in with dual primaries, like the old sidearm from Witch Queen and a random rocket launcher. And so it was all old gear. I don't think they had any exotics. I don't think they had any new gear on, which I guess makes sense at the start of the campaign, but it didn't really, it didn't really show much off. Eventually, a short ways into the first mission, you will find a Strand pillar or something, and you'll activate it, and this will give you temporary access to Strand as a subclass. So kind of the basics where it's the melee, the grenade, and the super. And I think this was a situation where your super recharges pretty quickly, so you can just sort of spam it and play around with it. So the Strand gameplay was mostly them just spamming their super and clearing out Cabal enemies with it. But again, this wasn't, we never really got a full demo of what Strand is capable of when you have a maxed out build, aspects and fragments, all specifically spec'd for Strand, or any of the new exotics they've already talked about, or any of the new gear at all. It was all old gear, no exotics, and then this kind of one brief segment where you're just sort of test driving Strand. So kind of the Strand preview footage we've already gotten, the Strand trailer, that was a better look at Strand, I'd say, than the live demo of Strand we got here, really early in the campaign. It was a little early to really understand what's going on with the Shadow Legion in terms of how they will play differently. As you've seen, some of the enemies have these giant darkness backpacks on them, but and those would come off, and I wasn't quite sure what the mechanic is there, but there's something to do with the backpacks. That's a new sort of damage mechanic with the Cabal. They do have Strand shields. That was reported earlier when someone broke embargo. So there are strand shields, but we don't have match game anymore. So it's not. I'm not 100% sure what the idea with strand shields is. I am like, well, we see a lot of redesigned enemies, like with the new look of the Shadow Legion. I'm not sure how many enemies have actual new mechanics attached to them. That wasn't really made clear just from this initial demo here. The only ones I really noticed that had new ones were the Legionaries with the backpacks. And then obviously there were Tormentors, but there were no Tormentors in this demo. Later on, Joe Blackburn would explain that there are different tiers of Tormentors. He gave the example that one you could like freeze with stasis, like a lower tier one, and like lock it down or something, but like a higher tier one might like shrug that off. And I took that to mean like kind of different functionality and capabilities between them, not just like this is an orange bar Tormentor, this is a yellow bar Tormentor, this is a boss Tormentor. I'm assuming it is a little more involved in that, but we did not really get a clear look at that. The campaign segment ended with a cutscene. I don't remember the exact order of these cutscenes, or if this was all one thing. There was one thing with Osiris and the Cloud Striders. The Cloud Striders are huge. Like, I think this was mentioned in lore or something, but like they are enormous. They're like 10 to 12 feet tall and just like towering over Osiris, like hilariously. Like they are just large humans, which I find very funny. I don't know if everyone on Neomuna is like that. There was something that we discovered later in Patrol where there are virtual citizens of Neomuna that are like some sort of holograms that just sort of like float around the patrol space, like kind of observing. I don't really understand what's going on with that, or what a virtual citizen is, or like where the actual humans are, like if humans exist. Like it's a little confusing, but they kept talking about like virtual citizens or digital citizens of Neomuna. So I'm not quite sure what was going on with that. And then finally, the last part of the last cutscene was Callus and the Witness. Like we've seen clips of that, and then Bungie sort of cut it off right before the end of that cutscene. I don't know what was going to be revealed there, but they cut it off there. Then we moved into Patrol, and this was also sort of an odd segment because, okay, so first of all, we learned later in the Q&A, Neomuna is supposed to be as big as the Throne World and supposed to be as big as Europa. So we're not talking like the EDZ here or Nessus, like these old, enormous, sprawling zones, or a double zone like, with Forsaken, but something akin to those last two ones. So there are three main, little circle areas. So like here's this zone, here's this zone, here's this zone, all three of different enemies, and there was one landing spot. So full-on Dreaming City, Throne World territory. As we know, Europa eventually got a second landing zone, because everyone complains. I really enjoy multiple landing zones. I have not really explored the Throne World probably as much as I would have otherwise, because there is only one landing zone. I don't really love that idea. I wish there were more. We don't really have a full sense of how big the map is, because as you know, with all of these maps, there are offshoots that go into like, here's this entire strike area, like here's where the raid is, like can you go into Callus's Imperator ship? Probably, but that wasn't shown. I'm just assuming that's something that we can do. So we don't really have a full sense of it. The problem with this demo was that, at least in Patrol, it seemed a little overly empty. There weren't that many enemies around. It was just very kind of quiet and dead for the most part. One explanation given for that was that at least in one zone they were in, there was some sort of big public event happening. Not like a public event, but something, I forget what it's called, but they're describing it as akin to like Escalation Protocol or Altars of Sorrow. So like a big sort of constantly happening thing going on in one of the main zones. We don't know what this is. They did not play this activity. So what I think was happening was that because that activity was going on, it had sort of sucked all of the enemies out of that zone, and they weren't there at all. So that may have contributed to why it was a little dead feeling. We also saw a lot of Vex around. Everyone got the chance to type in questions to submit to the team. My question that I did was for Joe Blackburn. I wanted someone to talk about why the Vex were there, because we've seen the Vex in a lot of preview materials, but they didn't really... We've never heard exactly what the deal is. And like we know that the Vex have worked for the Darkness in the past, but apparently that's not really what's happening here. So Joe, I was actually surprised to hear him reveal this much, was said that the Vex discovered Neomuna a long time ago. Well, like Callus and the Cabal are just invading and discovering it now. Neomuna has been fighting the Vex for a very long time. That is apparently why Cloud Striders exist at all, like why they have become, these powerful guardians of the city, where they sacrifice their lifespan and all this stuff. That has apparently been to fight the Vex off from invading the city. And that's all I really know. We know we're going into the Vex network in some segments of this. I'm assuming we'll learn more about stuff there. But that was something I thought was pretty interesting that was revealed there. In terms of that was like kind of the end of the patrol demo. We just I think Nimbus is the vendor there. They said in the Q&A that Strand will not be as arduous of a process to unlock as Stasis. I need to double check on this, but I think they said that it's like once you unlock it on one class, you won't have to like redo everything on all the other classes. I don't know if it'll be like a total unlock, but they did make it seem like the whole process of unlocking Strand is going to be a lot easier, and like that process will be kind of ongoing during the campaign. So that is kind of the gist of it. I do think that like there were two issues where Bungie has just been talking about Lightfall forever. They revealed Lightfall 6 months ago, and they dumped a whole bunch of stuff out, like, we're getting loadouts and, like, this Guardian rank system, and we're overhauling this, and there's been a crafting blog, and a sandbox blog, and a Strand blog, and a Strand trailer. Like, we have gotten so much information about Lightfall already that pretty much the only things that are left are, like, the literal story spoilers from the game, and things that they're obviously going to hide, like the raid. So I'm not super surprised the Vidoc didn't contain anything like super new. I'm also not that surprised that they're not ready to talk about what's after the final shape just yet. I that probably might give away how Destiny 2's Light and Darkness Saga would end, so I'm not really expecting them to talk about that until the final shape is here. So if you're saying, oh, there was not that much new in the Vidoc, I think the Vidoc was more just about kind of, buffing up the information we already had and giving like a behind the scenes look on how things were developed. And, I find all that stuff pretty interesting. It's just, it wasn't really like a news making thing outside of a few, here's Devrim, here's the Stasis Bow, like random things like that. The demo, I think, just could have been better. I get, Bungie asked for my feedback after, and I'm like, I would have liked to see like a fully endgame Strand build, like someone just destroying some sort of high level content with a really cool Strand build, or like a Strand Fire team with like new gear, aspects and fragments, like show the loadout, stuff like that. Whereas like that's not really what this was. Also with the demo, I mean the campaign intro mission, it's just an intro, so you're only getting kind of the tip of the iceberg. Patrol, it would have been nice to see what that activity was and see what like a frenetic firefight looks like on Neomuna, because avoiding that activity made it just sort of empty and dead everywhere else. So it wasn't like we could kind of see just Neomuna as an environment, which looked cool, but also this was a live stream, so like video quality wasn't super top tier. So like I'm sure Neomuna is visually very cool, and like all the stuff we've seen on like the high-res trailers looks very cool, but that was hard to kind of convey over a live stream. So I don't know. All this said, I very much appreciate Bungie giving me this opportunity. As I've said recently on Twitter, Bungie comms has been really fantastic lately. They have been, not just to me, but also to me, very, very inviting. They've sent lots of care packages. I got my Lightfall box copy back there I still have yet to open. Got an invite to this event. Like, they're really kind of going all out with these preview events. So like my feedback is just meant to, maybe improve future events in some way, and sort of maybe explain why the Vidoc wasn't some groundbreaking thing. So those are my initial thoughts here. Oh, I have a TWAB later today. Maybe I'll do 2 videos. I don't know. Man, there's a lot going on. And then it just seems like all that's really left to do at this point is play Lightfall. Like, I'm not sure what else they can even reveal at this point about Lightfall, or even the coming year. Like, we also, I didn't even mention the State of the Game blog. That was a whole thing that revealed, at least some big changes coming in the coming year. So I think Bungie comms has just been more spread out. Like, so, starting 6 months ago with the reveal, and then like 2 or 3 huge blog posts a week on everything, whereas it used to be like just the Vidoc was revealing stuff, or like just an early preview would reveal a bunch of new things. So that is kind of where I've landed here. I'm very excited for Lightfall. Can't wait to play it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the recent experience here. And please go click on my article. Thank you. All right. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.